Welcome back to Pile of Mopars. I got a few minutes to get in the shop tonight after work, so I think I'm going to work on the, well, not really work, more like play on the 440 out of the 68 GTX. I know we need to get back on this, but the problem is I've got the skid steer parked in here because anything below zero, freezing, it will not start. I think it's -6 or -7 outside right now, Celsius. So if I pull that out and then pull the Viper out to get this down to work on it, I might not get that started to get back in the shop. And once it's out in the cold, I've tried, I've boosted, I've used ether, it will not go. So basically I got to fix the block heater in it. So what we're going to do is pull this apart, the 440 out of the GTX, because we do have to weld or fix the crack between the frost plugs. Buddy Jerry's going to help me with that. So I've always been curious to see what is inside this engine, because the last owner said that the tranny wasn't the original one, and turns out it is. And I think because of the coloring on it, the red paint, I think it's been rebuilt. So I'm going to pop the pan off that and have a look as well. So I've always wondered if this is original and never been touched mechanically, or if it's been gone through at some point too, because it has been painted a different color blue. The engine has been out because it's painted all over a darker blue. So curiosity got to me, and we're going to do a little bit of an autopsy on this. So I'll crack all these bolts manually. I'm a little paranoid that if I put the big impact on there, I might strip some threads or something. Probably not, but this is easy enough. Just crack them loose and then zip them off. So yeah, I'm just curious. These just got a single spring on them, and it's got the stock style seals. So that indicates all stock so far, but I'm just so curious to see, well, condition for one, you know, how much of a ridge or taper or anything is in there, but also if they are in fact still the stock pistons. You know, with any luck, this was rebuilt back in the day, and it's 30 over with 10-to-1 forged pistons and you know, cam and stuff. But okay, I'll grab the impact here and zing these off. Well, that's a little too slow. Any bets of what we're going to find? Well, I'm hoping for the rebuild at some point, but I'm guessing it's probably just going to be a stock 100,000 mile worn engine, so we'll see. You know, my initial goal was to get this thing running in the car as is, but you know, with the big crack there, it would have just leaked coolant out everywhere and made a mess, and wouldn't be able to drive it like that anyway. And a buddy of mine, Ken, he's the guy that did all the work on the 69 Charger. He offered to help me with this thing. As you've seen in the GTX video, the whole front clip is pretty bad, you know, mangled and all that, and I've got that spare clip. He offered to help me switch that whole front clip over. He's an expert at it, so it definitely would be helpful for me. I was thinking I would try it myself, but you know, with his guidance, that would be the best way to learn for sure. If this is full of just dirt or anyway, that might happen at some point, but with us looking for properties and stuff, who knows where we're going to end up with that. So that might take up all our time. Anyway, here goes nothing. Well, so far it just looks like stock pistons. Stop flat tops anyway. Yeah, I forgot. I had looked at these gaskets, and these are non-stock because these would have been just steel gaskets from the factory. And of course, these are composite. I can't even tell. I don't recognize this red color, what brand that would be, but anyway. Lots of rust powder in there, so it's a good thing that I didn't fire that up like that. But standard. So the pistons say standard on them. I'm going to go get a light so you guys can see that a little better. Okay, well, we've got a bit of an interesting situation. These are all standard pistons. They look like they're... There's corrosion on the face of the piston, I don't know. And lots of this rust and stuff. And I think a lot of that came from the chambers here. You know, they're a little crusty there. But anyway... the bores look good. I see a lot of crosshatch in the bore. I'm trying to get the light on there so you can see it. And doesn't feel like any kind of ridge here. So it's a possibility of a couple things happening. Maybe, you know, it's fairly low miles. And or somebody, you know, cleaned it up and used a ridge reamer and stuff. So probably have to measure it. But the biggest interesting thing here, if you look... Got aftermarket pistons. I'm trying to see where I can get you to focus on that. Okay, so you can see it there. It says L2310, and then it says standard. L2310 standard. So it's standard bore. It's weird. Why would you replace the pistons if it's, you know, still standard bore? Unless, I was going to say maybe unless they put a higher compression piston in, but these don't look that. They're just, you know, flat tops like the stock ones would be. Once I drop the pan on this, I'll be able to tell if they're forged pistons or not. I can't really tell on these now. Well, and I just noticed something. If you notice, this thing has a hole in the middle from where they turn it on a lathe, but nothing else does. So I almost think they replaced just one piston. See, this one says standard. If you look at this piston down here, it says standard. And this one says standard, but it's got a part number. So I don't know. Looks like some backyard hokiness. Yeah, and if you look here, the mark there, the factory puts that in to you know, orient it to the front of the engine because the piston pins are offset. This one doesn't have that, being an aftermarket. And of course this one does and this one does. So, and that's got a number 2, you know, for number 2 bore. But yeah. Huh. Well, that's weird. One piston's been replaced. Anyway, I'll get that other side off and see if there's any more oddities here. Definitely weird. Okay, we'll get this other side off. Yeah, that's weird. One replacement piston. Should have a look closer. Maybe that cylinder's been sleeved. I always find it interesting opening up these engines and kind of trying to read their story, you know, as to what's going on here. But it definitely is weird. They replaced one piston, but I guess it is standard bore. I don't know why. Yeah, why would they just do one? Heads are untouched. Untouched, what I mean by that is they haven't been ported or anything. Get this impact again. Save some time. Well, what are the odds? What are the bets? This side's all standard. Can't imagine 2 cylinders needing replacement like that. Now, okay, we get the alternator attached to that still. That's a 9/16, so we'll grab a socket. I'll start pulling all these lifters out, keeping them in order just in case they're still good to use. Although I got a nice cam upstairs. It's used, but barely used. I got it from my buddy Ron, and it's like a comp cam 268H or 280H or something. I think that would be a nice complement to this engine. Anyway, I will pull all these out and mark them, and then we'll work at getting this whole front end in or off. And then we're going to switch it over or turn it over and drop the pan and have a look at if there's any carnage and or rust in there. Well, I got the one bank out. All of the lifters, pretty good. They don't seem to be concave at all as far as wear goes. And I don't recognize this groove in them, so I think these might have been replaced at some point. These don't look like a stock lifter, so somebody's been in here, which is a good thing, especially if everything's in good shape. And I'm gonna have a look for crown on the end of this. Now it doesn't seem obvious like Shauna's 413 was. And it's going to be hard to show in camera because I've only got 2 hands. I'm going to hold it there if I can. Yeah, it really doesn't seem like much of a crown, if anything. But I'll have to double check that off camera because, like I said, it's kind of hard to film and do that. Anyway, they look to be in good shape, not convex at all. So, and of course, like I said, they look like an aftermarket lifter. They appear to be hydraulic, so that's as expected. But anyway, I'll get the rest of them out. All the lifters are out. They're all marked. And they all are in pretty good shape. They're all about the same as far as wear goes. So if this cam is anything decent, then I might just put it back together. It's kind of hard to tell here. And once I get it out, I'll look at the markings and see, if it's an aftermarket cam or what the deal is here. Now, I'm kind of torn as to how to do this car. As far as, what the build's going to be. It's going to be a ratty driver, that's for sure. But rather than go with, steep gears, high stall, headers, all that, I might leave it more stock to make it more of a cruiser. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like to build them all as road rippers, you could say. Some of them got to be drivers, just nice cruisers. So, so I'm leaning towards doing that, but who knows? a guy can change his mind. Let's get this front end off. I'm just going to leave this bracket on the alternator and there's the bolt in the spacer here. And this one here, it's got a nut on the back. I'll have to find a wrench. So I really shouldn't be taking this apart, especially if we might be moving, because once you take something apart, it becomes a storage nightmare. You know, everything just sort of explodes, but kind of wanted to check this out. I better use my gut to hold it. Otherwise, this is going to all fall apart. So anyway, I'm just so curious about it that kind of couldn't help myself. So we'll let you follow along. And yeah, you end up with so much stuff just everywhere, which is, you know, pretty much what I got. So I'm going to check the date on here. I was going to say, see if it's original. It's usually not, because, you know, these things do wear out and they go to the rebuilders. So with the light here, quite often what happens, they rebuild them and the cases don't get matched back together, like, you know, this side versus this side. So they blow them all apart. You know, they do their cleaning and blasting, whatever. So I'll tell you right now, the back side is not the original because it says 1965 on it. Now, let's see, as you can see here, if you can see it, right here, this little circle, and then it says 65. What does it say on this side? That was the spacer I was worried about. That's a hard one to read. And spit didn't help. Another circle up front. Of course, I'm dropping everything now. That one says, looks like 68 or 69. It's really hard to tell. It's got a casting number here, so that'll tell me here, but yeah, it's 68. So this side is 68, this side is 65. So alternator's been rebuilt at some point, which is, you know, typical. It's the way it is. Anyway, I'll continue on. So on these water pumps, all the bolts are easy to get to, except there's one right here, but behind this tube for the coolant. And so how you get around that? I mean, because you're not getting that pipe out of there. I mean, it's rusted all into one. So you just pull all these other bolts out, which all look to be the correct ones, and I'll show you here what you end up doing. As you can see here, how this bolt right there is captured behind there. So all you do is take all the rest of them out, then you work this out with a wrench, and it'll just obviously the bolt can't come out, but it'll push the water pump housing away from the block, and you know, you can get it out that way. So we'll get busy with that. Okay, water pump housing off. Now remember I'd said the engine had been painted before. You can see here it's got quite a dark blue. It almost looks like a Ford blue. And then there's a bit of the original turquoise right there. But a lot of the engine was painted this blue, so definitely has been out and has been worked on. Previous owner said it had never been out. And he also said it wasn't the original tranny, which it turned out to be. So, you know, 50 years of memory. It's just things change, right? Or you just don't remember them correctly. So anyway, we'll keep digging. So this water pump's an aftermarket as well, because the stock Chrysler ones have a Pentastar cast right into them. And as you can see, looks like this one's been leaking, so it's pretty much done the seal. Doesn't feel loose at all, but the seal's definitely gone. So I mean, they're cheap to replace. So I couldn't imagine those guys that do the, everything's concours correct, and trying to find all the correct parts and right down to the bolts and everything. And man, oh man, that would be a chore. And I honestly don't think I have it in me. Also, if you look at this pump, now I'll just get this situated here. So we got this big filter, and it's got 2 nipples on one end, so it's got a vapor return, which is correct. It's all mangled. But if you look here, you can see all these screw heads right here and here all the way around. So this is a rebuildable pump. Now, I've never seen this style pump like that before. You always see the big fat Carter ones, right? And you can pop these screws out and replace this diaphragm right here. But I've never seen this style pump like that, so I've got to assume it's probably a replacement aftermarket from back in the day. But anyway, yeah, and you can see more of the dark blue, the Ford blue. Maybe that's why it cracked and gave up the ghost. Who knows, eh? Pump is out. Give you a better look here, so you can see how it's got this arm with all the layers of metal. I mean, it's definitely not a factory pump. And then look here. All those screws I was telling you about. Yeah. It says here probably made in USA, which is what you'd expect for something so old. And I don't see a marking on here. Usually cast right on the side, either side it'll say Carter. But anyway, that'll be replaced as well. So maybe it says something here. Oh, it just says in and out. Anyway, carry on. We'll get these pulley bolts off. We'll have to find the puller for the balancer. Better find a container for all this stuff. And let me get the plastic hammer on. This pulley, unfortunately, has got a big ding in it. And that's a manual steering pulley. You see, it's just one groove, which is correct because the car's got manual steering. I'll pop this off and look for the puller. Okay, found the puller. After finding the proper size bolts, we are good to go. Let's just slide this thing right off. And it should be just like that. Let's have a look at this. Look at that. It's actually in really good condition. And what I'm looking at is this rubber ring here. It's not even all cracked up or anything. It's in good shape, so definitely reusable. And this doesn't feel too bad, the snout, as far as where the seal goes. Worst case, we spend $10 and put a speedy sleeve on there like we did with Shauna's 413. Okay, I'll pop these off and we'll get the moment of truth as far as the timing chain and the camshaft. Let's see what's inside here. Engine's been kind of a mixed bag so far, so could kind of be anything, hey? No. Oh, yeah, I was gonna see how how much silicone they've used on there, but it's not bad. There's a bunch on the bottom here though. Oh yeah, piece of cake. It's got a aftermarket gasket down here. Usually it's cork, but this is a rubber gasket, so that's good. Nice and clean inside. Seal's been replaced. And looky here, we got a stock style timing chain with the plastic gears. Fair bit of slop too on both sides. More than what the 413 for the whale had. There's splash guard. Yeah, so look at that, hey, aluminum gear. And in the plastic teeth. You know, because everything's about noise reduction, even back then, you know. I don't know how much difference it makes, but so it looks like a Chrysler part number on the gear itself. I don't know if somebody would purposely put one of them back in or what, but I'd have to look on the GTX and see how many miles this car has on it, because just seems weird. Like the bores seem really nice as far as a ridge goes, and then we still got a timing gear that's got all its teeth. It's Chrysler part number. But I'm definitely not going to reuse that. I'm going to put in a proper one. The chain says Morse on it. Morse, and then it says Canada. Made in Canada. But the gear itself looks like a Chrysler part number. 2532490. Anyway, it's going bye-bye. So we're going to pop this out. I'm going to slide that cam out, and we'll see if that's a aftermarket upgrade or just a stock one. The mystery continues. Well, everything's out. I'll show you here. This is that gear. And yeah, if you actually look at it, I mean, other than being plastic, which I'd never reuse, it's actually really good shape. It's like they maybe replaced it when they were into the engine. And of course, this is pretty decent too here, but we'll get a whole new set for that. In fact, I've got one actually, again with low miles. But let's pull this cam out. We're going to see. We're going to see what it is. I'm guessing it'll probably be a stock one with no markings on it. Try and get this out without chewing up the cam bearings. That's what Mad Max needs. The 64 Belvedere had a big solid roller cam, and it was a used setup and a used motor, and one of the rollers came apart and went sideways. The roller and the lifter went sideways and chewed up the cam. But here, well, it says absolutely nothing on there. Kind of what I thought it might say. Didn't see anything on there either. So I've got to assume that's a stock 440 cam, which is probably a good cam still for a cruiser, and it appears to be in pretty good shape. Because like I said, the lifters themselves were, so a person could reuse this with a new timing chain. If a guy was doing a cruiser, then you know that's what we'll do. So yeah, kind of thinking that's the way I want to go with it. I mean, again, it's fun to make the you know, the high performance fast cars, but at some point you got to be able to drive them too. More than, you know, 60 miles. The cam bearings look to be really nice. And there's some markings on the crankshaft here I can see through on the counterweights. So I gotta think that maybe it's been machined and stuff. So, yeah, I'm just looking down at the bottom and I'm cheating. Anyway, I'm gonna vacuum these cylinders out. It's got a windage tray, which it should have, being HP. And I'll have to see if I drain the oil. I can't remember if I did or not. I did put a new oil filter on before I discovered the cracked block, but yeah, I'm going to vacuum these cylinders out too. Stand by. If I recall, I put fresh oil in here, and I think it was really good racing oil, so I'm going to try and, let me take this lid off. I'm going to try and capture it for reuse, because, you know, that's $100 worth of oil, and it never even fired, right? So that would be a colossal waste. So if I can see what I can get in here. Nice clean container. Okay. Here goes nothing. Well, ha. Anticlimactic. I must have cleaned it and this is just residue. I must have dumped it and this is residue. Well, I want to get as much out as I can before I tip it over, because it's just going to make a mess. Unless I drop the pan from this direction. I think that's what I'll do. And then spin it over. There's not much in there, just remnants. Got my nice clean oil jug all dirty for nothing. I gotta clean that. Well, it's got the correct oil pan on it, and it's an actually really nice shape. They're normally just hammered. It says 402 is the number. If I recall, that's a correct one for this engine. Lots of cobwebs. So I'll end up pulling this apart just like Shauna's and go through it and probably do new rings and bearings and gaskets, stuff like that. Like I said, the bores look pretty good, so I'm not gonna blow a bunch of money on it if I don't have to, because God knows I've got a lot of places to spend money with these cars, especially since I blew up the engine in my race car from my negligence. Okay, I think we got it here. Give it a wrap. Just gonna make sure. I think I got everything. I'm going to start prying on it when you still got bolts in there. Okay, have a look. Push down here. Wow, she's glued on pretty good. There's crap piled everywhere now. Here we go. Oh yeah. Lots of sludge under there. Wow, there is lots of sludge. I'll give you a little shot of that. You can see here, it's pretty thick. I mean, it's just from sitting, right? It's been sitting for so long, decades in fact. So you kind of expect that. Give you a better look at the crack here. Right there. Running all the way across. And you can see, of course, all the fluids leaking out, right? So, my buddy Jerry, he's been a machinist for 40 years or more. He's retired. He says you thread in some kind of plugs, and it brings the crack together, and then you seal it from the backside. I believe that's what he said anyway. He says he's done it on boats literally thousands of times. Anyway, he says it's a good repair, and you grind it down, you won't even know it's done. So being the original engine, we're going to have to fix it. And then I just noticed a bunch of numbers here. Right there. BD440. This is an early car. It's got an August 30th engine assembly date. As you can see here, it's either April 3rd or the 4th of March 67. So it was cast fairly early and not assembled and used until August 30th. Another frost plug out. I hope there's no cracks associated with that. But anyway, here's the windage tray. We'll get that off and have a look inside. Wow, this is going to take some effort because, well, there's a cork gasket there, but the top side is a rubber gasket. But it's really glued on there. And I don't want to, of course, destroy this thing. I'll get a pry bar here and see if I can help it along. Something like this. Try not to, I don't want to bend it up. Oh, there we go. It's coming. Maybe they didn't use as much goop as I thought. Okay. I think we're done there. That was actually pretty easy. So here's what it looks like inside. It's actually really quite clean. I haven't found any markings as far as undersides on the main journals, but looks like all stock rod bolts. They're not, ARP upgrades or anything like that. Interesting enough, that one piston is forged. You can see how it's all smooth and rounded inside compared to, say, the other ones, which I can't really show you. And then I took a rod cap off. The journal's pretty good. Maybe just feel a slight scratchiness, so I might need a polish. But here's the bearing. You can see it's down to the copper, so should have bearings. But nice even wear, no scratches. And I'm going to pop this off. I want to look at the back side. They'll have a date on it. There we go. I'll have to wipe that off. Just give me a second. I wiped the bearing off and had a look. It's a bunch of numbers on here I don't recall seeing before. Really hard to see. I can't make out if it's it says I'm gonna see if I can read it. DAB, and then it says 50. Hope it's not 50 undersize. And then it says looks like an F320C and a 65-29, a 66-29. Anyway, I don't know what any of that means. So yeah, it'll have to be replaced anyway. Well, with everything looking like it's in pretty good shape in here, probably get away with just doing rings, bearings, and gaskets and slamming it back together, and then probably, going through the heads there and cleaning them up. Same way as I did on the Whale 413. Yeah. Let's go have a look at the transmission. So, anyway, the previous owner said that this tranny had been rebuilt, and of course, judging by the red paint, it has. So, I suspect it's going to be pretty clean inside. But, so what I'll do is probably do the seals in it and new filter, and if it doesn't already, I'll probably get a shift kit put in there, or I'll put it in, and button it back up and be good to go. Okay, let's have a look here. Moment of truth. I suspect it's probably going to have debris. Oh, look at that. It's minty. Here, it doesn't even have any clutch material or anything on the pan. This thing's in great shape. Let's have a look here. Let's see what we got. Well, oh, interesting. Did I? Oh, you know what? I was in here already. What am I saying? Duh. I'm looking at these filter bolts down here thinking, what are they doing? What's happening? But yeah, I think I dropped this. Yeah. That's what happens when you get old. I dropped this pan when the car was on the lift. And I believe it had some clutch material on the pan, and we cleaned it already, so that's why it's so clean. But anyway, duh. But probably should have put these in here so I don't lose them. There'll be another one somewhere. Yeah, I forgot I already broke into there. So anyway, this will just be, and it does not look like there's any shift kit. Usually you see a plate here, sandwiched in a gold anodized plate or something. So I'll probably order one of them up and then pop that out, put the shift kit in and seals and put it back together. Might even just leave it red just because. Well, I buttoned it up again for the second time. I can't believe I did that, but actually I can. Yeah, I opened that up when it was still in the car on the stand and showed you all inside, and then I just did it again, and then I realized, dough. Anyway, seals and a shift kit, and it should be good to go. Well, in typical fashion, I managed to make a good mess. Stuff laying all over the place. Filled up Shauna's table with junk. And yeah, that's pretty much par for the course. Well, that's it for another episode of Pile of Mopars. Thanks for watching, and I guess I didn't really need to tear this apart right now, but I was kind of curious. So anyway, I'll have to probably mock it back up together somewhat so it's somewhat in one piece, just to take up less space in case we have to move. But yeah, I think we'll get away with ring and bearings and timing chain and slap it back together. It'd probably be a decent engine. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.